Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Debra's Quiet Corner. Thank you for coming in tonight. We're going to be talking about times and seasons, different times and seasons in our lives when we think like things may be a little off as far as God's timetable. Sometimes we just don't quite understand the timing of God because His timing is so different from what we are used to or what we can imagine how God does things in His timetable. This is going to be on coming from Ecclesiastics chapter 3. That's in the Old Testament. And it's a book of wisdom. If you want to know about like daily stuff and, like stuff that's not really complicated, you can always go to the book of Psalms is a good book. The book of Ecclesiastic is where I'm at tonight. And it gives you just daily basic wisdom concepts to life, and you can read those scriptures and you can really like get concepts to life, like daily things, if we pay attention to what it's telling us here. A lot of times we don't go to the word of God because some people don't say they don't understand. It's contradictory. It tells you not to do this, but then it tells you you can do that. Don't worry about all of that. Just ask God for His wisdom in learning the Word of God. And if you sincerely want to know the things of God because you want to do them to please Him, He will open up your understanding. Let me tell you, He says, any man that lacks wisdom, let him ask of God, and He will liberally give you the wisdom that you need to understand the things of God on a better level. And Ecclesiastics is telling us that there's a time and a season for everything under the sun. There's a time and season for this pandemic to end. There's a time and season when this pandemic was supposed to hit the world. There was a time and season when you were to be born. Your parents were already picked out. There was a time and season when your successes started going in a direction of successes. There's a time and season of loss when we lose and we don't get the things that we may desire at the time that we desire them. So everything that God has planted in this earth has a time and a season. You go to the store, you buy flowers, they have a time of expiration. They're beautiful when you bring them home. You sit them on a dresser or you sit them in your front room and they're just beautiful, but they have an expiration date. They're not going to last forever. And God made this earth like that, that nothing that we can see in the natural is eternal or lasting forever. It's all temporal. And we get so caught up in this world and we rely on this so much, but this is so fleeting. Like our lives are like an hourglass. Like we're constantly running through the hourglass. All of us have an appointed time. All of us have a time where God says, okay, you've done some people live to be 100. Some people live to be 60. Some people live to be 6. Some children lose their lives at a young age because it's all in God's timetable. And we don't like God's timetable because it doesn't match up to what we want. And then we get angry when things don't happen the way that we think they should happen, when they think they should happen. So I'm going to read Ecclesiastes chapter 3 and go over some of the things that this book tells us about time and seasons. To everything there is a season, a time for every matter or purpose under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up what is planted. When a farmer goes out and puts the seed in the ground, he has to then go back and cultivate it, and then he has to get that seed out of the ground because now the corn is coming up, the husk is coming up. He has to go back now because the season of the planting of the seed was put in the ground, and now the cultivation part of it has to be done. There's a time and a season for everything. From the time we get here until the time we take our last breath, it's all in God's season. A time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to break down and a time to build. It's a time to laugh, it's a time for joy, it's a time for peace, and then there's a time for mourning, it's a time for crying. And right now we're living in a time where we should be really mourning the loss of so many souls. We see them as bodies, but those souls that have left this life connected with the pandemic, that has hit the whole world. A time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to get and a time to lose. There's a time that you're supposed to be reaping the benefits, and there's a time that God has set apart that you're going to lose some things. It's just a part of the nature of God. A time to keep and a time to cast away. Some of y'all got so much stuff in your closet that you got tags on, you ain't worn. It's time to cast that stuff away. Take it to the Salvation Army. Give that stuff to somebody, especially this time of year when the shelters are full with people that don't have homes. I mean, families. I'm not talking about just bums off the street that we see, that we want to, classify them as bums off the street. There are families in crisis right now. When this pandemic hit, they lost everything. They lost their homes, they lost their jobs. So now is the time to go into your closet, and it's time to cast away some of that stuff that's just sitting there that you can't even wear. Just take a few minutes out, put it in a bag, take it to the shelter, call your local shelters, ask them, can I drop off this to the door? You may not be able to go in and take it. I got some clothes. And don't give them something you don't want. Don't give them the dress with the hole in it and the pants that got a big hole in it and the shoes that the heel and fell off. Give them something that you would want to put on. That's when the blessing comes in at. We want to give people what we don't want. Don't do that. Especially around this time of year. Take something nice that you would want for yourself and take it and give it away. And see how God will bless you for that. A time to rend and a time to sow. A time to keep silent and a time to speak. It ain't always time to speak. There's times you just need to be quiet. I say that a lot of times. I got to cut off everything. I need some quiet. I just don't want to talk. I don't want to hear the TV. I just need to lay before the Lord because I need some quiet. If you get and do that, you will hear from the Lord. He will speak to your heart, and He will let you know that He's pleased that you took time out of all of the busyness to get in His presence and just to seek Him and to want to know what His will is for your life. It's a time to get and a time to lose. A time to keep and a time to cast away. I just read that one. What profit remains for the work of the toil that is under the heavens? I have seen the painful labor and exhaustion and miserable business which God has given the sons of man, which are to exercise and busy themselves. All this stuff, God, He gave us jobs because He wants us to stay occupied. He gave us our businesses because He don't want us just sitting around idle. All of this stuff is a part of the purpose. He has made everything beautiful in its time. He also has planted eternity in man's heart and mind, a divinely implant. Scenes of purpose working through the ages, which nothing under the sun but God alone can satisfy. Yet, so that men cannot find out what God has done from the beginning to the end. I know that there is nothing better for them than to be glad and to get and do good as long as they live. I know that whatever God does, it endures forever. Nothing can be added and nothing can be taken away because it is the will of God. Whatever God purpose, nobody can take your blessing. Nobody can steal your blessing. Nobody can take what God has purpose for your life. It might take a while to get there, but you'll get there. Just be patient and don't be trying to step all over everybody to get where you're trying to get. God will take you where He wants you to go. God will get you to your purpose. I've been in and out of the studio, and I'm not bragging or anything, trying to lay some tracks, and I had to put everything on hold, of course, when my husband took sick, but it looks like God is going to, at some point, allow me to get back into the studio. I have songs that I have written, and I just want to be able to go in there and express those, whether they go and do big or they hit this big plateau. I'm just doing that because that's something that I want to do. That's something, and I think this is the time in the season that He's going to allow me to do that, because when I started, I laid my son and I did one song. We did a couple songs in the studio together, and his name is Joshua Worlds. That's his performance name out in LA. And he's also on YouTube, Joshua Worlds. He has videos of different things that he's done. So if you're on there and you see Joshua Worlds, that's my son. He went out to LA a couple years ago, and he was pursuing a lot of different things out in LA, and he's done some videos, and excuse me, he's opened up a club here in New Jersey that's very successful. I'm sure with the pandemic they have had to scale it down a little bit, but Joshua World, look for him on YouTube. He has his own YouTube channel and he does videos, so hit him up and show him some love. Back to God's timing. When I went in the studio, I thought I was supposed to lay the tracks. I got copyrights for the song and everything, but it wasn't God's timing. And no, you don't have to have the perfect voice to go into a studio, but you do have to be able to sing a note to go into a studio, because all of the background stuff fixes the music. Like they have all of this stuff that goes behind the scenes that takes out all of the squeaks and the twirls and the toots and the tweets that needs to be there to make it how it when you go to put it, then you have to go have it. You have to go have it done, by professionals before you can put your music out. So the stuff I've been putting on here is just little fun stuff I've been doing off of some little fun little network that I was using to get the beats off of, and then I was just like putting words to them and stuff. But I'm really serious about the music. I don't know how far God's going to take me with that. He may have something else. Maybe that's what I want, and that might not be what He wants. But like I said, I know that there's a time and a purpose for everything. So now is my time to try to figure out, where do I go from here. So just let's trust God through this pandemic. I was talking to my sister the other day, and she was so heartbroken. Her neighbor, she had just seen him a couple days ago, and the girlfriend, they kind of like was just sharing the place together. They had broke up, and just to keep the rent and stuff on, it was just like sharing the spot together. And the girl pulled my sister to the side and told my sister that, he had died of COVID, like on December 5th. And she said she didn't want to tell my sister because my sister had just seen him like a couple days ago. It's like crazy how this stuff is really taking people's lives and, taking people from their families and their loved ones. But timing is in God's hands. And when God says there's enough of this pandemic, He's going to lift this pandemic out of the earth, and we're going to be done with this. And then we get comfortable again, and then we go back to doing stuff all sloppy, and then God be trying to get our attention through different things, and we just ignore Him. Let me tell you something. If you think you big enough to ignore God, you got another thought coming. I'm not saying He's this God up in the heavens with a whip, and every time we mess up, He gonna whoop us and beat us to a pulp. But He has standards, and He has been very patient with this nation. This nation has really knocked Him out of everything. And now that we have this pandemic, it looks like instead of people drawing closer to the Lord, like they just going into their own stuff and going in their own ways, and they feel like they're going to just push God out the picture and ignore Him. God's not going to be ignored. We're going to recognize who He is before all of this is said and done. Trust me. And I just thank God for keeping my family safe. I mean, I'm not saying nobody in my family contracted the COVID, but they was able to bounce back from it. They didn't have to be hospitalized, which was a blessing. I think everybody has been touched in some way by this terrible, terrible, terrible pandemic that has hit the whole world. So God is not just trying to get the United States attention. He's trying to get the attention of the whole world. And we got to wake up and see, like, it's time to wake up. Come on, we got to wake up, because God is long suffering, but He has another side. And He is a God of judgment, and He letting us know, I am not pleased. I want people to stop this craziness down here. People are acting crazy, and He wants to get our attention, and He wants us to draw back to Him and recognize who He is, and don't put Him last. He's always last. Everything else that we do is first. He comes in last. God don't want to be treated like that. So if you want to read things about wisdom and daily things that you might want to just, ponder in your mind, go to the books. Go to the book of Psalms. Get your phone, put your app, you can download a Bible app. And when you just walking around or you got free time, or even if you're busy and you're trying to get something done, you can stick your little headpiece in there. You can get some of the Word of God. And the more you get the Word of God in you, the more you're going to want more of the Word of God. So just take some time out, and let's remember that God has a time and a season to lift this pandemic. It may be 2 years. It may be 3 years before it's totally out of the earth. But he has a time. And when he says it's enough, and he says it's done, I'm going to take this plague out of the earth, God can remove this plague. And he's the only one. We trusting in the vaccine. God gives man wisdom. I'm not going to be in line to try it first. I don't know about you, but maybe not. I'm going to see what happens. Take my time, because I ain't standing in line saying I'm ready to get that shot. It's a 2-series shot. Then they saying you have to get a chip put in your skin for them to give you the first shot, so they can remember who you were and give you the second shot. Now, how true that is, I seen that on a Christian station. Don't hold me to it. Go and look it up and see if there's any facts to that you have to get a chip in order to get this vaccine. So we're living in some time that's really crazy and bizarre, and it's going to get worse if we don't get it together. So I'm just hoping I said something that can encourage somebody tonight. I hope that you stay encouraged, stay safe, put your mask on, don't have large gatherings. Take this thing serious. This thing is not a fairy tale. This pandemic is real, and people are dying. Even while I'm on this phone recording this, and I'm going to be doing better with a camera sooner or later. This is my start, and I'm okay with it. I'm going to take that time. It's a time in the season for everything. And take this pandemic serious, because this is not no joke. This is not a fairy tale. This ain't something that somebody just made up. And they're not just telling you to wear a mask because they just want you to put a mask on. You better go put your mask on. Keep your mask on. Keep your distance. And try to love each other during this holiday. And stay safe in these stores. Don't overspend. Don't spend what you don't have, because them bills going to come in January. All right, thank you for coming into Debra's Quiet Corner. I thank you so much for visiting my videos. I've seen that they're being visited more. Just leave me a comment. Leave me a comment. Let me know, how you feel or what you have on your mind. It's all good. Let's just stay respectful towards one another. And everybody have peace this holiday season. I'll see you back here soon in Debra's Quiet Corner. Peace.